Hey everyone, Alex from cnc-o-rama here, and today we're going to talk about setting tool lengths manually. And for this example, we're using a fanuc controller, and we're using negative tool length. So it's a little unique. If you're on a different controller, you should still follow along because the concepts are going to be very, very similar. So I have a short tool holder and a long tool holder. And when I'm programming these two tool holders, I'm programming the tip of the tool, the very bottom of the tool. And so when I tell this tool holder versus this tool holder to go to Z0, I want the tip to go to the same location. But as you can see, the head of the machine is in a very different location. So that's where tool offsets come into play, is to let the machine figure out where the head needs to be in order for the tool tip to be at the right location when it's programmed. Okay, so first we're going to talk about absolute tool length, and that's what we have shown here, where the tool offset is the absolute length of the tool and the holder as it protrudes from the spindle. So this is also known as gauge length. So we have the tool offset, which is our gauge length here. And then we have a work offset. So notice the tool offset is this positive Z number. The work offset is a big negative Z number. But those two add up to give us the distance our head needs to travel to get to Z0. So you're probably using absolute tool length if you have a tool setter like this above, or there's also this style, or there's also like lasers, different ways of touching off tools. And those are calibrated using a tool kind of like this, where it's a known gauge length, and you calibrate your tool setter with that, and the machine kind of takes care of everything else. When you're using negative tool lengths, your tool offset is the distance from your tool tip when your head is at machine home to some reference location. So right here we have this 1, 2, 3 block that's kind of sitting on the back of the vise there. So that's our reference location. And that's going to give us that negative 8.816 value here. And then the work offset makes up the difference from there. So the tool offset's a big negative value, and then we have this small positive offset for the work offset. Now keep in mind, if the top of the workpiece, which we're calling Z0, if that's below our reference point, then that work offset would be a negative number. And again, just to look at both of these simultaneously, on the left we have our absolute tool length, where the tool is the gauge length, and that's what's going to go in as your tool offset. And then we have a big negative number for our work offset. And then on the right, we have our negative tool length, where we have a big negative number for our tool offset to our reference location, and then a smaller work offset that's going to make up the difference. So notice how both of these add up to negative 8.301. So it's the same exact number. So as far as programming the machine goes, this makes absolutely no difference. So if you're the programmer, you don't care how this is set up. So this is something that the machine operator needs to be worrying about, not the programmer. So on a machine I use regularly, the reference location is 2 inches above the back jaw of the right vise. And we even have a note that says that. Basically how that works is we use a 1, 2, 3 block to be able to find what's 2 inches above the right vise. So that's above this back jaw surface. On a fanuc controller, before we start, we first want to zero return Z. So I'm going to go ZRN and push the Z home button to bring it all the way home. Now that we're at Z home position, we're going to go to the position screen, click relative, type Z, and then press the origin soft key. That's going to zero out our relative Z at the home position. Now if we go and press position again to see all the coordinates, you'll notice relative and machine have the same Z0 position. So now we're going to go over the technique to touch off without breaking your tool. So if you come directly down on the 1, 2, 3 block, you're definitely going to break your tool. So always start with the tool below the edge and move up, applying gentle pressure on the 1, 2, 3 block until it slides under. Once you've done that, you can decrease the increment on your hand wheel and go again until it slides under, now at a smaller increment. You can even go all the way to the 10,000ths of an inch if you want. For the last step, we're going to go to the offsets screen for our tool offsets table. And I'm working with tool 18 here, so I'm going to find that tool. Now I type Z and this input C button. It's a soft key. And if you look close, our relative in our machine Z position is the same, and that's the same as our tool length. So when we did this thing where we did type Z and then this input C, it's actually taking this relative Z value and putting that in as the tool length. And that works because it's the same as our machine value. So what we're really looking for is this machine value, which we could have hand typed that in, but that's why we set the relative to be the same as the machine, and we did that by sending it home and then zeroing out the relative. So the benefit of having this location, it's easy to find that same point on the vise. The downside is if we ever pull this vise out, we've lost our location. So a lot of people will do a point off of the table. You could say 2 or 3 inches above the table. So that works too. Just make sure everybody who's operating your machine is touching off at the exact same reference height. So after you've touched off your tools using this method, it's always a good idea to just check your work by finding a safe Z location that you can bring multiple tools to and just make sure they're all coming to the same height. For each of the tools that you're going to check, you want to make sure that the tool height is active. You might need to use a G43 and MDI just to make sure they're all active, and then in theory they should all be at the same Z0 when you test it out. All right, thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of that, and like, subscribe, all that stuff. Thank you.